2. Welcome in to Trust the Process Live. It is only Monday, but it feels like it has been so much longer. So, guys, and before we get to introductions, there's this old adage. I think it came from like the 18th century. I don't know who said it. First name was Bruce. I think his second last name. It was an old scholar. It might have been Bruce Wayne. It goes something like you either live long enough to see yourself die a hero, or no, you'd either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And if that exactly is not the truest thing I ever heard, I'm not taking credit for it. It's 17th century Elizabethan era scholar. I don't know. Bruce Wayne, look him up, see what you get. It could be a good Google search. But as always, I'm your host, James Hyden. I'm here with my guys, and I'm going to switch up the order because we like to have fun here. The man with digits in his name. He might have taken some out. He might have added some. I don't know. He's a wild card. Max Coolish, how are you?
I'm good. How's it going, boys? How we feeling tonight?
Good. Digits got a little lighter. Took the mop off.
Yeah. Now I don't look like an idiot if I do this. Now I'm just like a normal person.
I like it.
My man. All right. Well, before we get to the tried and true nicknames, we got a new one to debut. I've never said it before. I've never said it out loud. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it. So you guys got to tell us how you feel about it.
I'm about it.
My man, Josh Safran, who they also like to call Doc Lock.
Doc Lock. Yeah, I like it.
All right.
I'm watching the meter. I think it's one of those things where, well, first of all, let me say how hard it is to come up with a nickname, to come up with an alter ego. And second of all, I am so happy that the Ravens covered, because if they didn't, I might have had to have deleted the video and shut it all down. And going 1-3 in the first segment would have been rough, but
that'd have been rough.
I'm doing 2-2. I'm doing okay. And maybe the nickname will get better as these picks get better.
I like the idea of the alter ego more. I think that's way cooler.
Well, I think if it's an alter ego and not a nickname, you got to come with the Doc Lock look. I need the small dark glasses. You might have to put some tentacles on yourself. You gotta lean into it if it's an alter ego.
Well, hey, where do you think Banner came from? But my man, the YG young gentleman himself, James Jackson. How are you, fella?
Yes, sir. I'm good. Look, I told you there are a couple of things that put a big smile on my face, and getting to talk smack about the Eagles is one of them. Oh. So it's a good day for me. Y'all world is topsy-turvy. My team won a playoff game 2 days ago. And your world is shaky, baby.
Oh, come on. No.
Sir. Don't choose violence.
500 team. You don't get
woke up and chose violence. Woke up and chose violence.
Better hope that black and gold monkey gets off your back, or else we're going to have a real fun show next week.
Yeah, I know. That's going to be
Yeesh.
I don't want to worry about that until this weekend.
The Vikings didn't make the playoffs to make their annual trouncing of their annual win over the Saints. So maybe next year, but hopefully JJ they can give you that one next week. We're gonna jump right into the main event. And guys, I got to tell you, I was excited to have a main event be about our basketball team. I was. It's what I wanted to see. But alas, Mondays are as unpredictable as ever. And we got the news around 2:45, 3 o'clock this afternoon, I think is when I saw it. The head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, Dougie P. Peterson, has been fired. Now, this obviously can go many, many, many different ways, but I'm going to start out with one question. And Josh, Doc Lock, I'm going to bring it to you, my friend, first.
Oh, I love it.
Bring it to you. I'm going to toss you this question. Your immediate reactions, but following that, tell me if it's a lock. I want lock or no lock. Is Howie Roseman next?
Oh, no lock. Absolutely no lock.
Yeesh.
It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. If it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. I mean, that's how I think. It was either Howie goes and Doug goes later. I just think the fact that we're here right now, Doug's here. We've heard just about no whispers of Howie in the last week or so leaving. He's here to stay, and it really hurts. I don't think he should be here to stay. But my immediate reactions regarding Doug Peterson, January 11th, 2021, mark it down. Day that will live in infamy, because that is the day the Philadelphia Eagles went from being competitive year in and year out to toiling in mediocrity for at least another 5 years immediately following this move. That's my immediate reactions. I think they made a huge mistake. I've said it all year. I've been pro Doug Peterson. And I thought I was in the minority for a long time, but now that they fired him, it seems like everyone who loved Doug Peterson has suddenly become the loudest voice in the room. I just feel weird. I don't like it, and I'll let you guys go, and we'll get more into it. But I just feel bad.
All right, so JJ, is Howie Roseman next? Immediate reactions to this firing.
My immediate reaction from the outside looking in was kind of peculiar, like, the one eyebrow up, one eyebrow down thing, head cocked to the side, and like, why this move? Why now without Howie? And I think the fact that we saw Doug Peterson get let go first, like if Howie was going to get fired, I think Howie was going to get fired, either along with Doug Peterson or get fired first. But I think the fact that we saw Doug go, I think that means, I'm with you, Josh, that I think we see Howie stay at least for the interim, if not Howie being here for good, however you guys want to take that. But also I've noticed that this entire season, Eagles fans have been trying to not place blame, but figure out who's at fault, figure out why this season has gone so awry. And it's been three people, right? Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson, Howie Roseman. And for the entire season, people have said it's a combination of the three or it's all three. And then dominoes started to fall. And then that's when I started really putting on some observation glasses, and I noticed something. First domino to fall was Carson Wentz losing his starting job. And then when Carson Wentz lost his starting job, a lot of Eagles fans came out and were saying, hey, don't slander Carson Wentz. Don't call him a bad quarterback. Don't say he lost it. He's just going through a rough patch. Jalen Hurts is going to get us through the rest of the season. Then Doug Peterson got fired today. And then, Josh, just like you said, all of a sudden, Doug Peterson fans are the loudest people in the room. All of a sudden, you hear a lot of, thank you for the Super Bowl. Doug, you were a good coach. It just didn't, sorry it didn't work out this year. Hope you get another good, good head coaching job. A lot of, good farewells and fair weather tones came from Eagles fans. And then the last man standing is Howie Roseman, and no one can stand him. Now, nobody can stand him. So I'm almost looking where the Eagles had three decisions to make. They made the first two, and it seems like they made the first two wrong decisions based on the reactions from their fan base, from their hopefuls, where they benched Carson Wentz. People didn't really like that. They fired Doug Peterson. People didn't really like that. And now the only person left standing is Howie Roseman. It seems like that was just the wrong move to make. That was just the last thing that they should have done. So that's my immediate reaction is the Eagles just got it wrong. They just completely messed it up. And when you start hearing reports that Carson Wentz's possibility of staying has just significantly increased with the Doug Peterson firing, let you know that there was a whole bunch of entanglement in this situation. You guys sound like a drama-filled cheerleading squad now. Like now that someone is gone, somebody else is happy. Like, oh no, Carson Wentz wants to stay now, or Carson Wentz can stay now because Doug Peterson got fired. It lets you know that there was a whole bunch of mess and grapevines tangled in this whole thing all season. And it just culminated as, Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie made a decision. And that's kind of why I think Howie Roseman is here to stay, because it seems like Howie had a hand in making this Doug Peterson firing instead of Howie Roseman going with him. So I don't think Howie's next. I think the decision's been made, and now we look to move forward in filling those vacant coaching positions.
Yeah.
Max A million immediate reactions. And is Howie Roseman gone too?
I mean, there's no doubt that Howie Roseman's here. That's not how the dominoes would have fallen. They fall together. Where the GM goes first, because you don't fire a coach to when your GM is in this much of a hot seat, right? Like Howie Roseman should have and could have very easily been fired this year. So what are you going to do? Are you going to bring in one coach for 1 year, has the pressure of the GM potentially being fired over his head all year, and then what happens when the GM gets fired after next year? Then you bring in a different GM who's going to fire that head coach and bring his guy in. So that's my biggest worry here, is that we're not doing you're not committing to anything here. You're being wishy-washy, and this gives me late Sixers vibes where you're just trying to figure things out as you go, and you stumble into 41 and 43 every year, and you get killed by the Pistons in 4 games, and you don't ever score more than 82 points, or those numbers might be true. I'm making them up off the top of my head. My point here is this Eagles, and I feel I have to say, because I stuck up for him last week, I said, this guy has shown me over my whole lifetime that he is a good owner, but this is the most baffling decision I can think of Jeffrey Lurie making, because it seems like he hasn't learned from last time where he let Howie Roseman have too much power and have too much say, and like, you know, Howie being in a more reserved role, you know, it was, you know, I would think we all hated the Chip Kelly era. Man, that's a tongue twister. But fact of the matter is, when Howie Roseman was in a much reserved role for those 3 years, we finished 10-6, 10-6, and 7-9. 7-9 is not the worst burn it all down record you could ever have. Just so happens that the coach completely lost the locker room. So if you look at the track record of the Eagles when Howie Roseman is not as involved as he has been for the last 2 to 3 years, it's significantly better, and that's should be a huge tell to Jeffrey Lurie. Like, hey, maybe this guy shouldn't be so high up in the food chain. He had a perfect role he found for him in terms of being the money guy, being the man behind the books. And I don't know what has changed in the last 3 years, because it's not like Howie has exceeded expectations as a GM and shown that he's anything more than a glorified cap specialist. Mm-hmm. And that is really the frustrating thing to me here, is that you're getting rid of one of the most important figures in Eagles history, especially, you know, the most important moment in Eagles history. He's an integral figure to it. And it's very frustrating. It doesn't feel like any result of this particular move leads to an improvement sometime in the next 2 to 3 years.
Not anytime soon. Yeah, not anytime soon.
I'm going to call my shot right here, right now. Eagles 2022 Hard Knocks. Book it.
Yeah,
it.
They might be. Yeah,
Good call.
They might be.
Wow.
I would love that.
So this whole situation kind of screams to me Howie Roseman being moved into a John Elway type role, like the being separated from the GM role and put into more of a president of, because let's be honest, like, they don't want to admit they were wrong with Howie Roseman. They don't want to like shoulder all the blame on him, which to me, I don't really understand. But to save face for the guy, I mean, give him his paycheck, give him a quote unquote promotion to save face for the media, and put him in at the president of football operations or
he's
done
good things for the organization. Yeah. He's just there's track record over multiple chunks of the same decade showing that he is not a good talent evaluator.
It's the same reason you fired Doug.
Roster. He can be tasked with helping build a football roster. He can be, you know, one of the people in the circle of that. But when it comes to the people that see the field, right? Like, he shouldn't be the one determining who they want to see the field. He should be the guy that once a player is determined that he's a fit for the Eagles as a player, Howie should be the next guy in there to figure out how to get him to the teams in the best financial situation possible.
Right.
Because Howie Roseman is one of the most underrated traders in the
we were screaming his praises, and rightly so, after
makes fantastic
the moves that
trades
he's made at certain times. But there's no denying or debating that his record as head drafter or key draft member is anything but trash. It's terrible. And I don't care if you find, you know, a great undrafted free agent here or there, or, you know, you make a nice pickup off somebody else's practice squad. That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. You need to draft well with your high picks to consistently win in the NFL. The teams that don't do that and do the exact opposite are the teams that are bad. The reason that the Jags, the Lions, the Bengals, the Browns until this year, there's a reason that the same core group of teams, everyone in our age group has cemented in their minds as being the laughing stock teams, because they're the same teams picking in the top 10 every year, showing that they can't develop talent and they can't make the right hires. I don't want the Eagles to go down the road of being in the position to have to draft high all the time and have to make the right hires all the time, because for some reason, no NFL team can do it consistently well.
And Max, to your point about all those teams, those are all teams who are consistently.
Yeah, he's not a great draftsman.
Those are the teams that are consistently rotating their coaches.
And now, that's the biggest problem.
This is the first time ever that I've been watching the Eagles, and there's been a vacancy. I mean, I believe it's the first time. There's been a vacancy at head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator.
Complete overhaul.
To have a complete overhaul 3 years removed from winning the Super Bowl. And even if you take away the Super Bowl aspect, we did say that the Doug Peterson lovers are somehow all of a sudden the loudest voice in the room. I just don't understand how any Eagles fan can look at this as a positive. And I get your gripes with Doug Peterson, but it's just you have to understand that there's no way this team is going to be a playoff team next year.
And here's the thing. Doug Peterson has had many faults in the past year, 2 years, you know, maybe even since the Super Bowl, it's seen him gone down. But a team that going into next season are $72 million over the cap with an aging roster, with holes at major position cores like linebacker, like defensive back. That's not the head coach's fault. That's the GM's. That's all of that is the GM's fault. Every single one of that is Howie Roseman's fault. And it's even more not Doug Peterson's fault because he doesn't even have the authority to make those decisions. He just gets handed ingredients, and Howie Roseman says, "Make me my meal." And I always go back to Bill Parcells, one of the most famous football quotes he had when he left the Cowboys and got mad at Jerry Jones. He said, "You want me to cook dinner, but you won't let me buy the ingredients. So, like, how do you want me to put a successful team together when you keep drafting these bad guys, giving them to me and say, go win me a Super Bowl?" That's not how this works. If you want me, you saw what I can do with my guys. If you want me to continue to be successful, I have to have say in drafting. I have to have say in free agency. I have to have say in trades. And Doug Peterson's parting words were, "Man, I got sick of being told what to do all the time." Like, at some point, winning a Super Bowl has to give me the cachet to have the keys, to be able to run and do something to get my guys. I proved that with my success. But Howie Roseman was just unwilling to give up that kind of authority and that kind of power, and it ran him into the ground. But still, Howie Roseman is the one who saves his job. It's just it's wild. It's mind-boggling.
So JJ, let me pose another question to you, man. All of this kind of takes us it takes us down the same train tracks, and it's like we're walking parallel, two people on side by side, and it feels like Carson might have diverged now from those thoughts. What comes next for Carson Wentz?
You know what I truly think? I think Carson Wentz got his starting job back. I think now that Doug Peterson is out the door, I think the Eagles as a whole, the organization's collective thought is, let's get somebody in here to get the 2017 Carson Wentz back. Like, now that the guy who clearly didn't want Carson Wentz, who couldn't call a play or couldn't call a game for Carson Wentz is gone, I need to find a guy who can. Because Howie Roseman, being the GM, being the money guy, still knows I have $180 million guaranteed tied up in this dude. I have the most guaranteed money at the time of a quarterback tied up in this dude. I'm not letting it go the year after we gave him that contract. It's just not happening. So now that Doug Peterson is gone, I think the Eagles' first thought is get a guy in here who gets Carson Wentz back on the track so we can put a $180 million guy back on the field. That's what I think happens with. I think Carson Wentz just got his job back.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a quarterback controversy. I don't think it's something that he has to win back at camp. I think Carson Wentz just went back to QB1. I truly believe that.
And I think you nailed it. And the one word to describe that for me is soft. And it frustrates me because I've been one of the biggest Hurts guys, but I'm not going to sit here and wave my Hurts flag right now because I agree with you completely. It feels like Carson Wentz just won his job back. And it was strictly a business decision. I feel a big part of it was Doug Peterson saying, I want more, and the Eagles not giving him more. But I really feel like it's a two-parter, and the other two-parter is the $29 million man, or however exact amount it is. At the end of the day, it was going to cost them less money. You know, they were going to lose less assets if they got rid of Doug and tried to build around Wentz. And just as a football fan, like looking at on the field, that does not sit well with me. You know, after seeing these weeks of Jalen Hurts, quote unquote, earn his job, forget about week 17. And now that I completely agree, JJ, it feels like on the depth chart, Carson Wentz is 1, Jalen Hurts is 2. And this is complete speculation, but I just so have that feeling. Like, that's what that move said to me.
Yeah.
But do we, like, to the people who really want Jalen Hurts to start, like, do they watch the full games? Like, do they watch the full, and when I say this, did they watch the full 3.5 games, or less than 3.5 games?
Ask Doc Lockdown there. That's the biggest.
Like, we're being serious. Like,
out there.
Like the second halves of all those games, good can't even enter that sentence because none of the second halves were good.
Well, who looked better, Jalen Hurts or Carson Wentz this year? Like, that's really what it is. And to me, it's Jalen Hurts.
I'm not disputing Carson Wentz had a bad season, but we're really if you're really ready to proclaim a rookie starter who doesn't even have a full 4 games under his belt left and hasn't played a good full 4 quarters of football consecutively. Like if we're ready to do that, I think everybody needs to take a step back and kind of recompose.
Yeah, but what have I been saying for the longest time, gentlemen? The Eagles need to move forward, and this giving Carson Wentz his job back is spinning your wheels in the same spot. Now you may spin those wheels and get some traction and move forward, but I think it's more risky.
Yeah, but Banners, no, you bring up a good point. Like, and it's a fair point because it's the classic track record versus recency bias, and even I get what you're saying. Like, even the recency bias, like you could say it's not fully for Jalen Hurts. I think it's just Deere is just going to answer a lot of the questions because I think with me for Wentz, I really am fearful of the injury bug. Like, I feel like the injuries have made him not the same player, and that's what we saw this year. Hurts is it's like a Christmas present, like it's brand new.
Brand new, and like brand new is the enemy of tried and true, because like I'm not sure how you watch the Eagles games and see if you watch what the offense was under Doug Peterson, with Jalen Hurts under center, that's what the play calling should have been with Carson Wentz under center, but it wasn't that way. I've made the point earlier, like you were doing nothing to accentuate Carson Wentz's strengths behind one of the worst offensive lines that you've seen, which was also injured. Yeah. Like, it's like, like I don't know how anybody's writing any kind of book about Carson Wentz, because there was really nothing to write home about in terms of actual evidence to who are like whether or not this guy can play quarterback.
But Banners, you also made the point that was purposeful, that there were 2 different playbooks, that Doug Peterson was purposely not doing that to get Carson Wentz off the field so he can get his guy on the field.
I stand by that.
We needed a coach to Wentz's strengths. What were Wentz's strengths this year? Anyone want to tell me?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, no, you didn't see his strengths because they weren't called upon. Like, he literally, there was I brought this up last time, the press conference where Doug Peterson said, yeah, we need to roll him out. And there's only 1 bootleg in the whole game. You can't see any strengths with an offensive line that's composed of dudes who should be third stringers. You're not going to be able to see strengths. That's not how the game works. He doesn't have time. So it's,
I mean, he was bad before his whole offensive line went to hell. That's all I'm saying.
And also to that point, I mean, that's why I give Jalen Hurts a lot of credit, because it's the same personnel that you use as an excuse for why Carson Wentz is performing so bad. Hurts comes in there and with no games previously, he's making plays happen. And I'm going into this next season with an open mind, because I was giving up on Carson Wentz towards the end. Now I do have hope. I'm going to give whoever comes in as the new coach like a fair shake. Say like, hey, go ahead, see what you can do with Carson Wentz. Maybe Doug Peterson really was trying to screw him over, but I don't believe it. Like, I'll believe that when I see
Josh,
it.
that's exactly why I think Carson Wentz got his job back, because it's not like you just fired the head coach or just fired the offensive coordinator. The coaching tree is completely new. So I think whoever comes in with Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Loring saying, hey, everyone here has a clean slate. Everyone here, forget last season. Carson, forget last season. It was an anomaly. It was bad. You got a fresh start now.
It around under different coaching. I'll happily and I'll be happy as the next Eagles fan in the world. I will be ecstatic if Wentz turns around and looks any type of semblance towards. I don't even want to say the year. I don't even want to say those 4 numbers in a row. I'm not even going to say it. I'm going to say that he looks like a decent NFL quarterback regardless of year. Right? That's all I'm looking for. But quite frankly, like, Carson Wentz lost us the first game of the season against the Washington football team. Carson Wentz was unable on multiple attempts and occasions to win us a game against Cincinnati on the road. I'm trying to. I mean,
he played bad in every game
because the Eagles should have dominated those 2 games. And those, I think those 2 losses, not to go too far down this terrible memory lane, but those 2 games are in the first 4 games of your season. Those are supposed to be 2 easy wins. Those are supposed to be 2.
I'm not sure I'm not sure where we divulge though by saying like it's all Carson Wentz's fault and they should have dominated, while also.
Well, I'm saying I'm using those 2 games as an example because they're early on in the season before the whole injury bug destroyed the team. Week 1 against Washington, what's your excuse? We didn't have the best offensive line for Brandon Brooks. What else?
No, but you don't have an
what's your
offense.
excuse for Wentz
Like, I'm
taking
not sure
all
why.
those
I'm not
sacks
sure
and
the why
losing
the. I'm not sure why the
position?
arguments separate from.
No,
when
but
we're
I'm saying that
talking
is a
about
key
Wentz.
part in this argument because you're saying that Carson Wentz had no talent around him and had nothing to work with, and you specifically use the offensive line as being the key example of.
I mean, I could have gone to the wide
because the
receivers
offensive
and the
line
running
is so
backs
bad.
and the tight ends. I could have gone
But he
everywhere
had
on
the
the
wide
offense,
receivers
but
in
I
the
didn't.
Washington game too before the injuries hit.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And Carson Wentz individually, the receivers are not the ones taking 12-yard sacks on third down to lose us a field goal range, which ultimately
Exactly.
loses
So
the game.
how are you blaming the guy
amazing.
that got sacked 50 times in not even a
You know
full
what every
season
other
and got
quarterback in
hit
the league is
75?
capable of doing under pressure? Throwing the ball away. Guess what Carson Wentz did not do a single time week 1 against Washington? Throw the ball away under pressure. The Eagles win that game by double digits if he plays like a fifth-year quarterback. They do. That's a fact, dude. That's a straight-up fact. If Kirk Cousins did the same thing against the Lions, you would be pissed.
Livid. You'd be livid.
A veteran quarterback against a
What do you
bad
wait,
team.
wait, wait? What do you mean if that happens every week? Let's not act like it's
I would have killed for Kirk Cousins to be the Eagles quarterback this year, not actually because of the.
All right, come on, settle down. We both know that's not true.
Out of the water this year.
We both know that's not true. But
Kirk Cousins was a better quarterback than Wentz. I don't want him on the Eagles because he would have taken 2 steps and got hurt on his second snap here behind that line. So yes, I understand different situations, but if you want to just look at if you did player A and player B comparisons, anybody is taking Kirk Cousins in a blind comparison this year. Anybody.
Yeah, but context is king.
And my okay, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Context is king, and the context is that Carson Wentz played bad with everybody before they got hurt. So thank you.
There's context to that too, because there weren't really any injuries to the skill position. I mean, Jalen Reagor missed 2 games, but what did he have otherwise? And everybody else, I mean, the offensive line got injured. It wasn't starting from a great point. Miles Sanders isn't a 3-down, 4-down running back. Goddard got hurt. I mean, Zach Ertz fell off. Like it's really everybody starting from zero. I feel it's kind of, I don't know. My whole thing is Carson Wentz was the best when he was coached hard by John DeFilippo. So
it's just kind of, we all know that. But that's 2 years in the past now. We all know that.
That's just my thing.
He could come back. He got let go by the Jags, I believe. I would love to see him come back.
He is. Well, I mean, the Bears lost, but he was the quarterback's coach in Chicago.
In Chicago, thank you. Not.
Well, we're gonna switch gears. And this is this is good. So our basketball team's name is no longer what it was. It is the 76ers because
that's hilarious.
There are 7 Sixers available. They have 8 available for tonight, but oh boy, this was
Mike Scott returning from a 5-game injury absence.
Yeah. Adam Silver pretty much forced Mike Scott to put on a uniform to get the Sixers to play. Meanwhile, now there is a litany of games that are getting postponed, and I guess we're all sitting here wondering why.
One yesterday, I believe. There's one today, one tomorrow.
And tomorrow.
So, Jesus, Max. I mean, like, are we officially calling this like Adam Silver stealing a game from the Sixers? Like,
I mean. Kind of.
Nah,
like objectively, kind of.
I'll say it.
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like, because the thing is, it's so easy for me as a Sixers fan to feel victimized by the big bad NBA after the whole same thing. It is. A lot of Sixers fans think the NBA has it out for us. Like, I'm not one of those people, but you do not need to go far to find them. You do not. I'm sure Josh is one. I'm sure Josh is one of those people.
I'm 100% one of those people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not a surprise.
I'm sure Josh will.
I mean, the Sixers obviously got the short end of a stick, but the NBA has been making a lot of people play with the short end of the stick this year. I really think, believe it or not, The Onion, unbelievably, The Onion does it again. The Onion on November 30th, headline, NBA feels like it has done enough to get praise, now allows player to get COVID. So, I mean, that's really all you need to know. They did the bubble. They got applauded. We gave them the round of applause on here. They did the bubble right. And then what did they do? They went right around and they went full NFL on us. And they said, hey, guys, 4 games in a week, couple road games, couple home games. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? What could go wrong?
Josh, what could go wrong, right? Tell me why you feel and try to explain the mindset of everybody else out there that feels like the commissioner, Adam Silver, robbed the Sixers of a game.
Commissioner Adam Silver, or Dave Silver, as some of the other people refer to him, who believe he has it out for the Sixers. I'm calling him Dave Silver tonight because that's what he deserves. So first of all, he completely stole the game from the Sixers. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, considering the Celtics were in an identical situation. The coddled Celtics got to take the night off. And not only did they take the night off, it's the safe thing. Like, what do you want these guys risking the spread of COVID? Like, let's not forget about that aspect of the things. And then there's the thing that Doc Rivers brought up, and the thing that we saw, the fact that Mike Scott had to suit up and do warm-ups as someone who was injured. Like, there's just so many problems with it. Forget about the competitive standpoint.
That's the red flag. That's the big red flag.
That's the big red flag. And like we were talking about the Nets and Nuggets games, like, oh, are these going to be good tests? Now, because of COVID, neither of them were, and especially that Nuggets game. But what I'm saying is, forget about
Nets game? When did they play the Nets?
I didn't.
Yeah, convenient for you to forget about the Nets game. Go ahead.
It's just a crime. And the fact that I don't know if this is on the Sixers, I don't know if this is on the NBA, but the fact that Seth Curry was on the bench in the first quarter after getting that test, the whole thing really just seems like a mess. And I don't think that there's any way that you can say, I'm just saying, Silver, he's got it out for us, and he stole a good game against the Nuggets. I wanted to watch that Jokic Embiid, but big bad Dave Silver at it again.
It's actually a hilariously entertaining game, even though, like, even under the circumstances. And we'll get to why.
Shout out to the kids. The kids played their heart
Shout
out.
out to the kids. They did play.
No, wait,
for like a quarter and a half.
We'll get to the reason why in a minute. We'll get to the reason why in a minute.
For like a quarter and a half. It was kind of close. I was like, oh, they might actually keep this close.
Yeah, that was the spunkiest 16-point deficit in the middle of the third quarter I've ever seen.
Right. I was giving it to him.
So JJ, was there a robbery?
There are a few times that I think a fan base has the right to actually sit back and say they got robbed or they got done bad by the league. And this is like one of the very few cases where I give the Sixers fans their 30 to actually gripe about what happened and the way Adam Silver handled it. You can go and get your 30. You can get yours. I'm just not one of those people, honestly.
I don't need it. Like, I've been so beaten down by Big Bad Dave that this is just like at the bottom.
I understand it because my very first thought about the COVID situation is when you talk about contract tracing with a team, how does the entire team not contract trace one person? You're all in the same locker room. You're all in the same clubhouse. You're all on the same bench, on the same team playing, doing the same things. How does it hit 7 of the 12 players, but it doesn't hit the rest of the 5? Like, I don't understand how it just stops at a certain people, how it's all your best players. But then when you get to Danny Green, it's like, nah, Danny Green is cool. Put Danny Green out there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how that logistically doesn't work for me. Doesn't sit right for me. So
it only hit the starters lunch table, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool kids table.
It only hit the cool kids table.
Yeah, the cool kids
table. I understand that. And it's something that I was going to save for my tap out. I'll get into my tap out a little bit later, but Max, you make a great point that the NBA kind of just took themselves down a peg. They did it right with the bubble, and then they kind of just came back to normalcy and figured that they could just do it, just do the NBA season normally, and players wouldn't get COVID. So yeah, it's Josh, you make another good point too. It's the safe thing. Like if 7 out of the 12 players have contract tracing of COVID, why not take the rest of the players out too? Why risk infecting a whole nother team as well? Isn't that how this whole shutdown started? Because one person permeated the entire league. Like, isn't that how this started? So why do that? And now you're seeing the NBA, because they want to just put their head down like the NFL and go forward, break their own rules. Like, if a team dressed an injured player, if a player was on the injury report and a team dressed them, that team in normal circumstances gets fined because you can't dress a hurt player. You can't do that. That's to the detriment of that player. It's to the detriment of the product of the league. But when the NBA just wants to go fast and do it, no, Mike Scott, you got to, even if you're not going to play.
The hard rib nudge. Hard rib nudge.
Now, the Sixers do have the unfortunate kind of position of being the guinea pigs of this whole thing. They were the first team to get this bulk contract tracing. The NBA said, let's see what happens if we just make them play. Not only did it look bad, not only did the NBA get bad press, but they got absolutely blown out and just shouldn't have been out there. So now afterwards, what happens? Okay, we're not going to subject the Celtics to that. We're not going to subject other teams to that. And
I got a conspiracy theory that Josh is going to love.
Let's hear it.
The Sixers were forced to play that game because it was their first City Edition jersey wear of the.
Ooh, Money. Look, hey.
That'll always be remembered. These Black City Edition jerseys are always going to be remembered as the 7-man COVID jerseys.
No, those
7-man COVID jerseys.
Those City Edition jerseys were tainted the second that they were referred to as New Philadelphia. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I don't know who looks at Boathouse Row and thinks New Philadelphia. It's like the oldest thing in Philadelphia.
So the next question we're gonna buzz through really quickly because I want to highlight the reason why that Denver Nuggets game was so fun to watch. And I feel like the question I'm about to ask you guys, we're gonna actually have a better answer to it because the same situation is kind of gonna pop up in the next coming weeks. So real quickly, guys, just going around the table, just real quick, Max. We kind of should we be concerned about that Nets game?
No, biggest trap game in history. I went full Doc Lock mode and took the Nets +4 that night. Sucker line for the Sixers.
Money line.
Sucker line for the Sixers. Easiest money of my NBA season so far. No, that is the epitome of a trap game. How are you going to? I'm not going to judge that game either way because what did we see? We saw a game that is never going to be played out again between those two teams because 3 out of the 4 biggest stars weren't playing. Who cares?
Because you hit on your bet doesn't mean you shouldn't worry about the game.
Gambler. I'm saying I don't care as a fan because if we ever play a game that matters versus that team, it'll never look anything like what we saw last.
But Digits, was it not you just merely a week ago that was saying when the Nets didn't have KD, not and Kyrie, but when they didn't have KD, the Sixers need to go and win this game. They need to go.
And then we didn't
okay. So when Kyrie gets taken off too and they lose, now all of a sudden you're not worried.
Yeah, but
the Sixers needed to win that game.
Embiid game or was that a Simmons game?
Say it again.
One of Embiid or Simmons missed that game. I'm pretty sure.
Embiid missed that game.
Embiid missed that game. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Actually, no, they both were there.
They both
played. Okay, there's no excuse for losing that game. There's no excuse.
It's a terrible loss. Yeah, it's a terrible loss. But
you can call it a trap game all you want. You need to be worried the fact that you didn't go and take care of business because the Nets still have good role players, and it's still the Nets. Like you still have to go and win.
That's why it was a trap game because that scrappy Nets team without superstars is the one that have been playing the Sixers hard for years. That's why I knew to bet on them.
Yep. And I mean, that Nets team, and specifically Karis LeVert, he just has his way. If Spencer Dinwiddie was playing in that game, that would have been a 40-point blowout or something like that. Like, the Nets own the 76ers, and it was
So how are you not worried?
I don't know.
How are you not worried that a team that's supposed to finish top 2, top 3 in the East with both of their superstars can't beat a team superstarless?
Because
why are you not worried?
Team anymore.
Huh?
That's not the same team anymore. They added
Kyrie. They're lesser of a team, so you should be able to beat them because they're way lesser of a team.
Yeah, but if
you have expectations, you should win that game. You're showing me that you don't have expectations for the Sixers then. Because if you have expectations for the Sixers, they needed to win that game.
Come on, dude.
They needed to win that game.
Garbage. That's garbage. That's like saying, and this is a spring attack on you. The Suns are losing by 30 at Washington right now with no Russell Westbrook. That's like me saying you can't have aspirations for the Suns because you guys should win this game.
I didn't say the Suns were going to finish top 3 in the West. I say the Suns are. I'm happy if the Suns make the playoffs. I'm happy if you're talking about the Sixers being top 3 in the East and then losing to a KD and Kyrie-less Nets.
I'm losing to the worst team in the East
maybe making the 8th seed. I'm talking about maybe making the 8th seed. And you're talking about top 3. We're talking about 2 different things here, buddy. 2 different things.
Okay.
Way different. That was a spring attack. That was a nice try. That was a spring attack.
Loss, then neither can you.
Huh?
That's all I'm saying. If I have to give up my expectations after one bad loss, so do you.
JJ, wait, let me rephrase.
I'm not saying you have to give up your expectations. I'm saying you should be worried about the game. You're trying to pass off this game as a laissez-faire loss. And I'm saying it's not right.
It's a bad loss, but not indicative of what would happen in a playoff series. It does make
that was worried, a bad loss. That was a bad loss, but I don't think Sixers fans should be worried because of that game. It was a weird situation. Hopefully that situation isn't going to rise again. And that was Joel Embiid's first time playing the second night of a back-to-back and who knows how long. Like as much as it should.
And the culmination of all that doesn't worry you. The fact that Joel Embiid couldn't get it up to beat it. The first time he's playing the second night of a back-to-back, couldn't get up to beat the Nets without KD and Kyrie. All this doesn't worry you. Yes, it's not indicative of what's going to happen in a playoff series. But guess what? Injuries happen. Players miss games. Players miss games. Injuries happen. So if you're saying that if you're coming to the Nets down the road later in the season, even in the playoffs, and either KD or Kyrie misses, let's be honest, Kyrie might miss again because he just didn't feel like playing. So he might just wake up and not feel like playing that day. So if Kyrie doesn't feel like playing again, and you're saying the Sixers lose, you shouldn't be worried later down the road. I'm saying you got to handle business. You were the best. You at the time had the best record in the NBA. You were the best team in the NBA. So you need to handle business when it's presented.
Not in the first 10 games of the season. If this was a few months from now, it's a totally different discussion.
If your expectations are up here, then you're lowering your expectations. You're lowering your expectations.
I never expected this team to be all-time great. And I don't care about
beating the Nets without KD and Kyrie doesn't make you all-time great.
Every team has bad losses. That's my point. One bad loss this early in the season is not doing anything to me. That's all I'm getting at.
Okay, those pile up because the Cavs lost. Because that mentality piles up because you said the same thing about the Cavs loss. Oh, it's a bad loss, but everyone has a bad loss, so get over it.
Here's
that kind of stuff adds up. You're just going to keep allowing them to have bad loss.
Yeah, not great, but.
The 76ers, all their bad losses, they come down to one man. It's Joel Embiid and basically him not being there. I mean, he played for the Nets, but that guy wasn't there, you know? The 76ers are doing nothing if Joel Embiid's not playing. Like you're saying injuries happen. If Joel Embiid gets injured, you can chalk the season up for the Sixers, okay? So the way I'm looking at it, and it's I agree, it's a bit problematic, but it's Joel's second night on a back-to-back. He's not used to it. That worries me. But I'm saying talk to me when it's playoff time. I mean, maybe not playoff time, but talk to me down the season. Let's see how he does on back-to-backs. I'm not going to get worried based off of that one game, of that one instance. Bad loss, yes. Am I worried?
You're also forgetting that it's not a whole lot of games, but you have 10 less games in this regular season. So that's 10 less opportunities to kind of get stuff right and fix stuff. Games matter a little more this season. A tiny bit more. A smidge more, they matter. And I just think that an opportunity to get up on a team, especially the Nets, where, you know, you're playing them 3 times this season now, the opportunity to beat them once where they don't have their best stars just came and went. And now the next 2 times you're going to play the Nets are going to be with KD and Kyrie. Completely different.
Not worried about the Nets. They're going to collapse.
Yeah, you keep that mentality. Whatever helps y'all sleep at night, really. Whatever gets the boat rolling.
All right, so we got another tough week coming up, and they're playing the Hawks right now with Joel Embiid on the court. Granted, he is dominating right now against the Hawks, but there's a back-to-back tomorrow with the first game out of 2 against the Miami Heat. So, we all kind of know what that means. So 2 games against the Heat after this, a game against the Grizzlies, the Thunder, and then 2 against the Celtics, and then it's another back-to-back with those Grizzlies and Thunder games.
End of the month?
I'm sorry?
What does that bring us to? The end of the month?
Yeah, that's what the second Celtics game is on the 22nd. Then we go Pistons for 2, Lakers on the 27th.
You know January flies.
Timberwolves on the 29th, and then the Pacers to round out the month of January. So it's going to be
in 20 days.
Yeah, it's they have 5 games in 7 days right now, and then it's a lot of games to round out the month of January. So we're going to find out a lot. And one of the reasons why that Denver Nuggets game was so entertaining to watch without the lack of star power was the young guys. The young guys actually put on quite a show, obviously highlighted by Tyrese Maxey's 39-point night, which is definitely something to write home about.
Victory lap.
Exactly. I mean, even guys like Paul Reed and Isaiah Joe are showing that they can be fun to watch. Fun fact: Isaiah Joe is shooting 100% from 3 this game as well. Kid's got a nice second shot, but
could have fooled me after the other day, but I don't want to say that.
Say it again.
No, I was making a joke that Isaiah Joe shot pretty poorly the other day.
4 for 18.
Yeah, I said good looking. I didn't say good yet. But Josh, I'm going to come to you first with this, man. How do you see this week coming up with this kind of gauntlet? I mean, it's not the toughest teams in the league. Granted, Boston is hot. But how do you see this week going? And tell me if you can see Tyrese Maxey actually running this offense for good.
Ooh, well, I mean, first of all, I think 5 games in 7 days is going to be rough. Like, I don't think they're going to lose out or anything like that, but I think it's going to be rough. And it's because of Embiid. The team is built around Embiid, and now you add this whole COVID thing. it's going to be rough, but I think when we look back on the season, it's going to be a big turning point for the Sixers. Like you got to get this out of the way, learn a bit about yourself. Glenn can learn a bit about his team. And when it's all said and done, I think this 5-game stretch will actually benefit them. But this week, I'm really not feeling too good. They're going to drop one of those Heat games. They might drop a game to the Thunder. Like, I think it's going to be a bad loss this week, without a doubt. But Maxey, that is something that excites me a lot. Like, for sure, right away, rookie year, he can just run things. Sixers haven't seen that since Michael Carter-Williams. I mean, I guess Ben Simmons, but he's a bit of an anomaly. But just a pure point guard who can run an offense. Haven't seen that since Michael Carter-Williams. I've got my total faith in Tyrese Maxey. And something that I was thinking about is a second unit. Well, I guess because you got so little guys now, this would be a first unit. Tyrese Maxey at the point, Shake Milton playing shooting guard, and maybe have like Danny Green play small forward, run a real small ball lineup there. And you have Tyrese Maxey running point guard and Shake as Shake as a shooter. Gosh, that excites me a lot, especially for a team that's a depleted unit, to be able to rely on your guard like Maxey. I'm all in. Like, how can you not be? That guy can run this offense.
Yeah.
I'm seeing way too much of Tony Bradley. But Max, tell me how you think this week is going to go and what your thoughts are on Tyrese Maxey.
Well, I'll start with Maxey because, like I did interject with, this is a small victory lap for me, but hate to be the party pooper here. I don't know. Second unit, absolutely. He should 100% be having the ball every single possession. I think we need to slow the roll with talks about him being in near the end of the game and stuff like that. He still plays like a rookie, as in he still plays he plays at the same speed. And this sounds kind of weird, but ironically, JJ's boy Chris Paul is maybe the best example of this in terms of how the person handling the ball dictates the tempo of a team's offense. When they stop, when they start, when the motion needs to start, who needs to be going where. Tyrese Maxey he's a dog. I think that's a good way to describe him. He is not afraid to drive at somebody's chest, and I forget who it was, but he went right at he kept going right at at Jokic and
Paul Millsap.
When Millsap was in, whoever was guarding the rim for Denver is more or less what I'm getting at. He had no problem going right into their chest. And I know Jokic is not Embiid or Dwight Howard or even Rudy Gobert in terms of their rim presence, but Jokic is still a 7 foot plus dude, and he's still a lot taller than Tyrese Maxey. My point is that the dude plays incredibly well downhill, but I have not seen enough out of him in terms of knowing how to orchestrate and successfly run an offense, under 4 minutes to go in a close game where where you need to make sure things are crisp and this sounds so hypocritical of me to say, because Jesus, when was the last time the Sixers have been able to run a decent offense in the last 4 minutes? So hell, maybe as I'm talking myself into it right now and live on air. So I think maybe before the end of the year we'll see it. I just don't know if I'm quite there yet. To circle back to the front part of the question, I think we're gonna have to pick this discussion up down the road. I don't think this week of NBA games finishes. They had a meeting today to discuss a 7 to 10 day shutdown for teams to get healthy and stuff. And it's bad. It's bad how many teams are dealing with multiple starters to potentially a quarter of the whole active lineup. Not the guys who see 2 to 11 minutes in 35.4 quarters. Talking about the guys who, even if they're only playing 12 to 15 minutes in an average game, if those guys are impacted by COVID, that's still a huge loss for the team. You can't be the Sixers against the Nuggets the other night. I don't know if you guys looked at the box score of that game. Tyrese Maxey played 45 minutes. Isaiah Joe played 45 minutes. All of them played over 40 minutes, and it's insane to think that you can expect that out of teams to do that. So I really think the NBA is primed for a quick work pause.
Some real bad minutes out of Mike Scott in that game. But JJ, tell me your thoughts on this upcoming week. And I saw you nodding your head there. Is that kind of like you're echoing Max's thoughts on Tyrese Maxey?
I'll get to that second, Max. I'm pretty much almost on the exact same page as you with Tyrese Maxey. I'm gonna move as if this week does get played. I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna.
I had to throw it out there because I do think you're right.
No, I
Not
think it's a
very
great
conducive to
point.
discussion.
Yeah.
So
Right. I
It
think
needed
it's a
to be
great
brought up.
point, but right, just for the sake of discussion, I'm going to act like, this week does get played.
Yeah.
But Josh, I think you do make a good point that at some point you do got to go through a stretch like this. Like the Sixers aren't the only team that's at some point going to have a month filled of games or 5 games in a 7-day stretch. And you get to do it in January, not March or April. Like you get to do it early, figure out something about your team, mix some lineups, figure out who's got the endurance, who's got the willpower, who's able to get it up, and game 5, when you're down the road. I think it happens at a good time. But Max, when you talk about Tyrese Maxey, I'm almost at the exact same page as you when it comes to that, where you saw a lot out of him, especially you can't ignore a 39-point game. 39-point game is a 39-point game. I don't care who it's against.
Anyway, it happens.
Because he got minutes, he got the opportunity.
Yeah, you drop almost a 40 ball. I don't care if you did it against a high school team. You dropped almost 40. That deserves some kind of recognition. But let's also remember
he got at Kentucky. Sorry,
right? No, you're right. But let's also remember that Tyrese Maxey was playing that game. Tyrese Maxey was playing that game knowing that he wasn't coming out, knowing that there was nobody else behind him, knowing that there's really nothing he could do wrong to get himself benched. But let's just be honest. Yeah. So that comes with a lot more freedom, a lot more with, I'm just going to put my head down and go to the rim every single time. And it allowed him to get the dog out of him that he probably isn't able to get when there's a full lineup there. There's just not as much opportunity to do that. So when you get everybody else back on the floor, you got to realize that Tyrese Maxey, his usage rate is going to go down astronomically. Tyrese Maxey's not going to have the ball enough to drop 30 to 40 points. He's just not going to. Yeah. When you have Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Seth Curry, Danny Green, and Tobias Harris and cats, you're just not going to have the opportunity to do it. And like Max, when you talk about the pace of play, that's the thing I noticed too, where there was no slowing down in Tyrese Maxey. Now, they got down 15 points, 16 points kind of quickly going into the second quarter. And at that point with Tyrese Maxey, it's just all systems go. Like we're probably not going to beat this team, but if we do have any chance of beating this team, it's just going to have to be a barrage. Like I'm just going to have to surprise hit them when they're not ready for it and kind of catch them off guard. But when in a normal circumstance, you're not going to be able to do that. And I was looking to see if there was opportunity where Tyrese Maxey was going to have to be that point guard in the half court. Because we all know my biggest gripe about the Sixers, they don't have a primary ball handler in the half court for when stuff slows down later in the season or in the playoffs to kind of take that slack off of Ben Simmons. And I don't think Tyrese Maxey's head was there, so he didn't show that. He didn't show that I can slow this down at some point, run a set offense, take some of the pressure off of Ben Simmons, even when a possession is going bad and we got 10 in the shot clock, put my hand up and get the ball back out at the top of the key, run a high pick and roll and get the pace back on it. He never did that. And I don't think he ever thought to do it. Doc Rivers probably never put that on him to do it because it was such a weird game. But you're right, Max. I never saw that. So in a second unit, if Tyrese Maxey can run not the offense, but run a offense. Can run it for the Sixers, I think he showed he's more incapable of do that. To put him in the first string or to put him latter 4 minutes of a ball game and tell him to go be the point guard, I think there's just much to be seen for that yet. But he hasn't been put in that role. He has been asked to do that. So I just don't think it's realistic to expect him of that form right now.
I really hope that they play this week, but for that exact reason, JJ, because I feel like this would be a week where you can just throw him out there and not as extreme as that Nuggets game, but you have a depleted roster. You can try
Simmons
it.
is actually hurt.
Yeah,
right. Ben Simmons is actually hurt. So it's like, do we want Tyrese Maxey running this offense for all 72 games this year? It's weird to say. But no, but this is a good opportunity for you to be like, okay, Tyrese, let's see what you're like as a rookie building for the future. Maybe like you get that confidence, you get in your head. Okay, this is what it's like to run an NBA offense. Here's a good test run. And the other thing is I really hope they play games this week. So guys like Isaiah Joe, guys like B-Ball Paul, in case there's injuries down the road, they get it in their head where they say, yeah, I'm an NBA player. Right. Glenn Rivers had a quote about that saying like, basically after he was done saying, wow, we really should not have played that game, he turned around and said, I'm happy that these guys got extended NBA minutes. Because when you're a rookie, sometimes you need that reminder like, hey, I'm in the NBA. I deserve to be here. And I think while Maxey needs that a little less than guys like Isaiah Joe or Tony Bradley, I think that was just huge for him to have that confidence to know, like, I'm the man. Like, I'm better than these guys who got kicked ahead of me.
But at the same time, Josh, they were, I believe, now Doc Rivers is one of the most meticulous coaches in the NBA. but I believe they were put out there without real game plan. There was no real set.
100%.
There was no real
there's
game plan to follow. It's like, yo, we're a JV team playing the best high school, the best varsity team in the country. Just go out there and try not to get hurt.
And there was no threat of being benched.
Play. Yeah. If I'm Doc Rivers, I go and tell Tyrese Maxey, man, you go out there and you try to do whatever you can do. Whatever you can do out there tonight, you go out there and do it. And he did. He went out and dropped 39. Exactly. Awesome. Great. But he did it agendaless. He did it game planless. It's completely different when I put you out there with Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, Dwight Howard, and tell you command 4 vets. Yeah. That's a completely different ball game.
He the energy he played with in the Denver game reminded me of like the after Harden and KD left Oklahoma City. It reminded me of that like no holds barred Russell Wilson, like literally just energy. I don't care what I'm gonna make it inside the paint and I'm gonna be in the air. Whatever I do in the air is anybody's best guess. Like that floater just reminds me of just like I'm going. Whatever happens. So
he played completely off instinct, just purely off instinct.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens. It's gonna be a tough stretch for the Sixers, but it's gonna lead to a lot of great commentary by us. So make sure you don't miss it, and you can find us in podcast forms wherever you get your podcasts. We'll plug right there. We're going to skip halftime, unfortunately, because the regular season came to an end last week. So we're not going to bore you with picking.
Hold on, I got to say this.
Oh, okay.
The biggest winner of the weekend is anyone who exposed themselves to the Nickelodeon game, because that is
you watch it. That was hilarious.
That is the future of football. I'm convinced. The slime zone.
That was pretty cool.
It's sick.
That was pretty cool.
That was talking wild card weekend.
Yeah, no, that's all you get for Super Wild Card Weekend, because apparently that's what we're calling it.
Damn, don't sue me, NFL.
We'll figure it out. Super Wild Card. It's still wild card in our hearts. But moving on to the second half in rapid fire, we're going to do a nice little breakdown of divisional weekend. Now, it's going to be Pick'em edition, and unfortunately, I didn't do my homework very well. And by homework, I mean I lost all of the picks that I had written down for us, unfortunately. So the record starts now, okay? All bets are the record starts now. We're keeping track of them. So we're going to do rapid fire Pick'em edition. We're going to start in the NFC. We're going to go Rams versus Packers, all right? So right now the line's at 7 points for Green Bay. The over-under is set at 46. All right.
Low.
46. So I'm gonna add this to the Pick'em edition. Give me your best bet about the game. It can be spread, it can be money line, it can be over/under. If you got a nice player prop you have in mind, because Max, I know you're fancy yourself some player props. All right.
I haven't even looked at any of them.
I don't know any off the top of my head. But maybe
okay. All right. Well, hey, then stick to the big three. All right. So Max, I'm gonna have you go first, my guy.
I mean, it sucks because last week the Rams did the same thing where it's like they might be starting a quarterback and they might not be. I have to get this off my mind really quick. If your typical starting quarterback is any type of healthy enough to play in a playoff game, unless that thumb is going to physically fall off and never be able to be reattached,
I didn't understand it. Yeah,
it makes no sense. It makes no sense because the best thing that could have ever happened to the Rams was John Wolford getting hurt and Jared Goff coming in, and that's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say that; it sounds insensitive. So, with that in mind, I'll take the Packers to cover in the under.
All right.
And the under.
And the under. Yes.
I
think the under.
Green Bay's defense is a little bit underrated. I think
false.
I think that they have a competent enough coaching staff to know that they need to sell out to stop the run, and Jared Goff thrives off play action enough that if you take away the run, Jair Alexander is good enough corner to neutralize a third of the field. He finished second team All-Pro. The dude is a really, really good cornerback. And I'm think that if you make Jared Goff into a straight drop back passer, that's the clear formula to beat the Rams.
Well, I'm taking the over because
is not flattering.
Dude, so the Packers cannot sell out. They can't even sell out to stop the run. Did you see what Dalvin Cook did to him both times this year?
Both times, yeah.
Dalvin Cook's different. The Rams are schemed out.
The Bucs game, Ronald Jones had a 100-yard rushing game on him
Cook
too.
is a monster.
I don't think the Packers can sell out to stop the run if they want to.
And
But,
that's why everyone's going to take the Rams, and that's why I'll be taking the Packers. They're the
I'm still taking the Packers.
First of all, who's taking the? You mean everyone's taking the Rams? What you mean everyone's taking the Rams?
I'm still taking the Packers, but I'm taking the over. Easy, it's an easy over for me. Josh, who are you taking, buddy? For the record, just so we have it on tape, because I'm not great at writing stuff down or remembering. So for the record, Max is going Packers in the under.
Actually, I would like to just go just Packers. I thought we had to choose like both.
Oh, okay.
We had to go in conjunction. If I
no, you can go. Yeah, you can go. Pat. Yeah.
Okay. If I get but to pick and choose, I'm just putting my confidence in the Packers covering. I definitely think that points.
All right.
I'm going Packers here.
Straight up.
Especially if we're just talking. Yeah, if we're just talking win or lose, it's Packers, and that's the one where it's like don't overthink it. I said the same thing about the Seahawks, and hey, Jared Goff, a banged up Jared Goff, proved me wrong. I throw my hands up like I said I would, but I'm going with Packers here, and I'm not going to touch the spread or over under now. Maybe on Friday, but the bet I'll throw out right now is Devontae Adams' first touchdown. Because first of all, that guy's a touchdown machine. Jalen Ramsey or not, that guy's a touchdown machine.
I got burned both times I played that.
I played it once this year, and I was 10 to win $100. So I'm gonna go back to that one. He not only is he a touchdown machine, he always scores the first touchdown. I feel like I don't know if you guys picked that up too. Well, Banners, clearly you did, and then got burned. But I just feel like he's always scoring the first one.
Packers have the highest red zone throwing percentage. He's best first touchdown bet in the league.
And as someone who had Aaron Jones on their team, I learned that quickly.
Yeah. Hey, don't sleep on Big Bob Tunyon either.
Robert Tunyon killed me in fancy.
Big Bob, JJ, Rams, Packers.
So if I'm going just win or lose, obviously I'm going the Packers. I do think it's going to be a little closer. I think the Rams got a little bit of bravado last week and a little bit of confidence. But look, you guys know I'm the biggest Jared Goofy hater there is. I love talking down about him. But there's something to be said about coming into a game that you weren't supposed to play in and leading your team to a victory against a division foe, against a very tough playoff team. Like you got to give credit where credit's due sometimes. So I give Jared Goff a little bit of credit for coming in and winning that game. And I think it gave the Rams a little bit of moxie. And Jalen Ramsey, after coming off a good game against DK Metcalf, is just playing with ultimate confidence right now at the defensive back position. That's the best DB in the league, hands down. And he's going to shadow Devontae Adams all game. Devontae Adams is going to get his. Devontae Adams might score, but Jalen Ramsey is definitely going to make it tough. So I could see the Packers not covering. I really could. I could see this being less than a touchdown game. I could see the Packers winning by a field goal or 4 points or something like that. But I do still think the Packers win in a close game. But I think it's enough for us around the NFL landscape to be like, wow, man, like almost like claps to the Rams. Like, yeah, y'all lost, but it's like you put up a very valiant effort, a very, very valiant effort. So I do take the Packers. I just don't have them covered.
This game screams to me one that I'm going to hedge my bets. Like, I feel like I'm going to take the Rams to cover just to have it. You know what I mean? Like this, I don't know why. It's screaming at me. The line right now, seven for some reason screaming at me. But we're going to move on into the AFC. And this one, the Ravens and the Bills. All right. The line starts out Buffalo -2.5. Okay. Over under set at 50. I don't know how I feel about 50 for the over under right now. JJ, what's this line telling you?
50, I think, is a pretty good one. It's a very pass happy offense versus a very run happy offense. I think it might be a little high, but I think it's a pretty fair one. I'm going to take the under just as I don't think the Ravens keep pace with the Bills personally. I think the Ravens had a very good game last week. I think they showed their moxie against the Titans, but that's two running offenses. I think the Bills pose a completely different style of offense for the Ravens. The Ravens were able to kind of shut down Derrick Henry in the run game last week and wildcard weekend. I don't think they have the same success when Josh Allen starts throwing that thing all around the field like he's normally doing. So I think the Bills. I think the Bills cover. I think the Bills definitely win by more than 2.5, and I'm definitely taking the Bills in this one. I love the Ravens. I picked the Ravens last week to win. Lamar got that playoff win monkey off of his back, but they're going and facing a Bills team that's literally has been hitting on all cylinders for like the last 6 or 7 weeks. Like the Bills are one of the best teams in the NFL right now, and I think they're on a crash course to hit the Chiefs in the AFC title game, and it starts with a win against the Ravens.
It's going to be a good game. Doc Lock, what's this line telling you, man? Baltimore, Buffalo.
I hate to be the guy to pick against the Bills 2 weeks in a row, but I'm going with the Ravens this week to win. Money line.
Have you not
outright.
learned? Have you not learned, Doc?
Well, I did. Hey, I learned last week that the Colts spread was that was free money right there. 6.5 for good old Frank Reich. I'll take that one. But the Ravens, man, I don't know. I think it's the two hottest teams. I feel their moxie, you know, and I've loved Lamar. I've been loving him ever since he's been Lamar pretty much. That game, JJ, you said it. It's a running team versus a passing team, but it's an explosive run that the Ravens have. And they're one or two explosive runs. The way J.K. Dobbins gets out in open field, the way Lamar gets out in open field, I'm taking the Ravens. And I'm also going to take the over because I just think that there's no way you can stop the Bills. You can only slow them down a little. 28 points against the Colts was slowing them down, which I think the Ravens are going to be capable of replicating. This is like a 24-28, like teeter around 30 for both teams.
The Ravens were able to do that because the Titans run the ball so much. Not when the Bills start. Like when the Bills give them 5 wide for 3 out of the 4 downs. Like I don't think the Ravens are prepared for that.
Right, but
the Titans' defense was bad.
They were bad.
Bad tackling.
I will not deny that.
The Bills' defense is much more disciplined than Titans' defense. I don't think they're going to allow Lamar Jackson to get out in the open field like that.
But I liked what I saw from Lamar's arm too. I mean, I've never harped on that as much as other people, but people really harp on his throwing. I think he's got a good arm. There's no Josh Allen, but if that's the difference maker for you, I was impressed with what I saw in that game.
All right, Max A Million. Tell me what the digits are speaking to you.
I'm thinking that you're crazy if you're picking against the Bills this week because the Titans were a bottom 5 defense and the Ravens struggled for a full 60 minutes to score 20. The fact that the Titans didn't win that game is very, very surprising to me because the Titans haven't been able to stop anybody on defense, and Ryan Tannehill has had to. I mean, Derrick Henry obviously has been crazy, been exceptionally good this year, but there have been a lot of times where Tennessee's found themselves down double digits early, and Ryan Tannehill has kind of gone underappreciated in having to throw them back into some games to get the. There's been a lot of games this year where Derrick Henry was ineffective in the first half because they find themselves so far behind, and then he takes over the second half when the Titans offense is able to claw back a little bit closer after a big AJ Brown or Corey Davis play. That's been a big trend for them this year.
Yep.
I think it's really as simple as who is going to stop. I mean, JJ, you nailed it, dude. You really did with who's gonna stop the Bills when Josh Allen spreads them 4 or 5 wide. Because if they go 4 wide and they keep Singletary in the backfield, Singletary got great usage last week as a runner and a passer. You have to stay honest with him. I would be pretty surprised if we didn't see I don't want to say a vintage Bills performance because they haven't been doing it long enough, but I think we should see a very
not like Bills. That's what they've been doing all season.
I think that they maybe will start slow. I think that they'll maybe start slow, but I think that team is I don't want to say like the Ravens aren't, but that Bills team is a family. They are a bunch of guys who have really come together this year, and they're going to be at home again. There's going to be fans in that stadium again. Dude. I am not picking against the Bills if they have fans at a playoff game. I just can't.
Yeah, Lamar's got to go to a cold Buffalo stadium at this point of the year. I like the over. I like the over in this one. This just said, I don't know why the over's talking to me. Mainly because I just think Buffalo's going to run roughshod on them. There's not really Marlon Humphrey. He got injured.
He got exposed a little bit too.
Yeah. So I think that's where the exposition started when he got injured. Like, well, it was week 16. I think he went down for a little bit. He came back. I think it was like an ankle injury. Outside of him, like Jimmy Smith, like anybody, they have nobody that can cover Stephon Diggs. And Cole Beasley has been the best slot receiver in the league this year. It's
if you want a player prop, you go over on Cole Beasley reception.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
This is going to be a game. The Ravens are a much different test than the Colts. This Ravens team had they had the Super Bowl right in front of them last year. They were the darling team going into the playoffs, and they're going to be a tough out. I think that I think this is going to be a tough out. I really do. I think it's going to be a really, really competitive game.
This is going to be a great game to watch.
That I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being a 26-24 game, and that 2.5 just absolutely nails everybody like me who's like, that's too small for a Bills spread.
So we're going to move on. It's actually funny. So we have a 1-6 versus a 2-5 in both the AFC and the NFC. So we're moving over. We just did the 2-5 in the AFC. So we're going to move to the 1-6 matchup in the AFC with Kansas City versus the Cleveland Browns, who just got their first playoff victory since 1995. Like, boys, the Cleveland, they done did it. The Browns done did the thing. The Browns is the Browns. They done did the thing.
Remember when I asked y'all when did we take the Browns seriously? That was what, 5-6 weeks ago. And like,
in the words of Chase Claypool, they're gonna get clapped next week anyway. So you know what I mean.
Eddie.
But the line right now is sitting at -10 for Kansas City.
Wild. 10 point favorites on a playoff game.
10-point favorites, and the over/under is at 56. Like that's. It's kind of staggering. Max, what does that tell you? What are those the speaker of digits? What are you hearing?
I mean, I would love to get a professional like Dr. Locke's opinion on this as well. But I mean, I'll be damned if these aren't some sucker lines here. This is an easy Browns under game. Easy Browns under game. We know the only way to contain this Chiefs offense is to not let them have the ball. The Browns are lucky enough to have two of the best 12-10 running backs in the league. And I'm absolutely not going to pick the Browns to win this game. I don't know how this Browns team can straight up beat Kansas City. But fact of the matter is Kansas City looked, I don't want to say they don't look sluggish all year. They definitely looked a little sluggish down the stretch, but Kansas City has been sleepwalking through first halves all year. Sleepwalking through first halves this year. How many times this year have we seen a Tyreek Hill bomb within the first 5 minutes of the third quarter in a tie game or a one possession game one way or the other? The Chiefs absolutely they are the reason the term flip the switch was invented, because it took them one postseason championship run to realize that they can flip the switch every single game, finish 15 or 14. No, they finished 15-1. They didn't even lose their last game of the year. They can, or no, yes, they did. They ended up going 14.
Are they 14?
They realized that they could flip the switch every single game, and now the switch is about to come back on for real. I think that mentality is always a little bit dangerous in terms of what happens when the switch doesn't flip on immediately. I think that might be what kind of happens. The Browns are obviously riding on the craziest high that franchise has I'm going to say ever experienced, because quite frankly, the Steelers are their mom, their dad, stepdad, stepmom, and legal guardian in all 50 states, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic.
Cuba.
That's how bad the Steelers have owned the Cleveland Browns franchise in this modern era. Right. That is literally, I don't want to be dramatic. That is a franchise changing moment for that team. That organization now believes in itself to a degree they never have before in this modern era. So I think the Browns come out. I think they'll play spirited. I think they will run the living hell out of the ball. I will even go as far as to say, if you're feeling particularly saucy, Browns first half money line. If you're feeling saucy, I'm not going to say it'll happen, but I would not be shocked if the Browns can sneak out a 13-10 lead at halftime. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. I think the second half, the Chiefs will absolutely come alive like they usually do. Andy Reid will realize that Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, Travis Kelce, and Sammy Watkins can run past anybody who's covering them. So I think that they'll take control. But I think that everybody just expects Chase Claypool to be right and the Browns get clapped. And I don't think so. I just don't.
See, I think if you're feeling spicy, you go over on the Nick Chubb receiving yards. He actually got some play as a receiver out of the backfield yesterday, which is I mean, obviously Kareem Hunt, that's his role. Nick Chubb's the ground and pound guy. I think that's my player prop for that game. But Josh, what's this what's this line telling you, man? 10 points for Kansas City, over under 56.
A scary line, especially on a Monday. Like, this is one of those things that I think come game time, it's not going to be at -10. Whether everyone's going to be tricked into Kansas City and it'll go up, or everyone's going to be looking at it saying 10 points, give me the Browns, and it'll be around 8 by game time. But the Chiefs are going to win. It's hard because I really firmly believe momentum is so much greater than a week of rest. Like, I feel like the last 10 years of playoff sports and all sports has kind of shown us that momentum is greater than rest. And it's scary because Max, you said it, like there's a path where the Cleveland Browns win this game. I'm just not going to be the guy who goes and says that that's going to happen. The Chiefs are going to win this game, but the over under, I would take the under. I got to take the under with 56. That's another thing that might change, but yeah, I'm going to take the under 56. I just don't see Patrick Mahomes losing to the Cleveland Browns.
Not the Browns. Not the Browns.
And the other thing is, unrelated, I cannot wait for the storylines to come out if the Browns lose. And Cleveland's athletic articles are going to be like, oh, is Stefanski the coach? Because when he was there, they lost. Like, I don't know. I was thinking about that from a Philly perspective and just all the controversy that would arise if not
everywhere is Philly, Josh. Not everywhere makes a mountain out of a molehill.
It's hard, but it's all I know, man. So I was just thinking about that. But hey, right now I take Browns plus 10, but that's right now. We'll see how I feel on Friday.
All right, JJ.
You'd be an absolute, like Max said for the last game, you've been an absolute fool to pick to pick against the Chiefs and pick the Browns. I get that they're like the sexy team right now. I get they're coming off a really impressive win. But there's something telling me that the Browns, although the formula, Max, you hit it on the head. The formula to beat the Chiefs is literally just keep their offense on the sideline for as long as you possibly can. Take the air out of the ball, long sustained drives and end them in points so that Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the opportunity to put up numbers. But the Browns' biggest wins this year is when they put up a lot of points. And they did it again yesterday. When they beat the Steelers, they put up a lot of points. So I think there's something about the Browns that thinks that, hey, we can keep pace with this team. We can do it. We can put up 30 to 35 because the Chiefs' defense isn't great. Chiefs defense isn't even good. So we can put up 30 to 35 and maybe get an extra possession or two and just, luck turns it that we win this game. I think we're able to keep pace. And they kind of sucker themselves in to doing a track meet with Patrick Mahomes. And you're never going to win that. You're just absolutely never going to win that. That's playing right into the Chiefs' hands. But I think there's a part of the Browns that thinks they can do that and they're going to try. So I think this game does go maybe a little high scoring. Patrick Mahomes does a little villain hand rub thing where, this is what I wanted. I wanted you guys to do this. Go ahead and try to think that you can win this game, Birdman hand rub style. And, I'm up. So, it's tough, Josh. Like that line is a little tough. It is a little baity right now with the Chiefs minus 10. I think anytime a team is a double-digit favorite in a playoff game is kind of wild. Like we're in the divisional round. We're in the divisional, but still, that's still a 10-point lead. But it's the Kansas City Chiefs, so I might take it, and I'm taking the over.
All right, we are going back to the NFC
grand finale in the NFC.
I love how you make this the last one every single time. I do absolutely love it.
I'm going to you last. So Max, man,
I'm sweating.
We got the New Orleans Saints, the Aints as they should be called, versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now the line is opening up at -3 for New Orleans. The over under is 52. What do you think?
It's high.
I think we should get ready to fire them goddamn cannons.
Let's go.
I said it last week, man. It is too goddamn tough to beat a team 3 times in the same season. And I mean, honestly, this feels like an alignment of stars for the Bucs, right? You got the 2 prior losses, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, all the storylines there. One of them is defying age still. The other one has, a foot in the retirement home door. The defenses are kind of similar in terms of, their defensive line can just absolutely destroy you, whether you're passing or running. They have, they're prone to kind of giving up big plays in the secondary, but that doesn't make their secondary bad. Linebacker has, one stud linebacker leading the charge. And I see a lot of similarities in these teams and their defenses, but I think this game is the reason why Bruce Arians caved and let Antonio Brown join his team, because honestly, I don't even want to sound like this is a shot at JJ or anything. I can't think of a single current situation in the NFL where one guy owns another guy like Marshawn Lattimore owns Mike Evans. And it's very perplexing because Lattimore plays more or less bang average against most teams, but Mike Evans has gone, I think, 2 or 3 straight games without a catch under Lattimore's coverage. He did get hurt really early in one of those games, but Lattimore gets in that dude's head instantly. And I think that I think that this is the game that you brought Antonio Brown in for, because you lose one number one wide receiver. Like, I don't want to be too like overreactionary. There's a legitimate chance Mike Evans gets ejected from this game because of Marshawn Lattimore at some point. Like, that is like a feasible possibility to happen.
Well, the last time Mike Evans got ejected is when Jameis Winston was doing the taunt thing, and who did Mike Evans come in shoulder to get him ejected? Marshawn Lattimore.
Exactly. So there is literally a precedent for this thing in the past, and I think that when if you lose a number one guy like Mike Evans, not a lot of teams have the option to replace him with another number one guy. And I think this game is the Antonio Brown game. I think this is a 2 touchdown. I think that you want a player prop, just take Antonio Brown over receptions to score anytime. If you're feeling saucy, throw 2 or more touchdowns on there. I think this is the Antonio Brown game.
All right, Josh, what are you hearing? Doc Lock, what are you hearing?
Max?
I mean, I've been picking against them all year, and something's different this time around. We're firing the cannons all around the board here. Bucks money line would be my pick. What?
No, I'm talking about going all the way around the board. That doesn't make me feel good, because of course
it shouldn't. That definitely shouldn't.
Oh,
that
no,
makes me feel terrible.
It shouldn't. But I'm shocked it's happening, because last week me and Max were trying to pick against the Bucks. This week it's a different story. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the game, I'm like, I look down, I look up, I'm picking the Bucks. I can't believe it. And look, yeah, the two. I'm a big proponent for it. You can't beat a team 3 times unless they're really bad, and the Bucks are not really bad. Like, they're going to win. You can't beat a team 3 times. And JJ, we were talking about this before the show started. I think a lot of this game comes down to Devin White, like his status for the game. And you said it. He's not the best coverage guy, but he's fast, and no linebacker has quite the speed to keep up with Al Kamara. And I think that's where the game's going to be won or lost. Can he slow down Alvin Kamara? And I think Devin White's going to be able to do it.
The Bucks do the best job against him consistently than any other.
I literally was just about to say that, Max. We're the only team in the NFL that consistently slows down Alvin Kamara.
Right, and because of that, I'm picking the Bucks straight up. No points necessary. Give me that.
I think it's almost more surprising you guys haven't beat the Saints this year, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of throw out that tobacco on Sunday night. I kind of throw that out, of the air. That was just, I don't know what was going on that game. That's your throw out the tape game. I mean, we were down 27-0 in the first quarter. Like, I don't even know what was going on in that game. So I kind of just, regardless, I let it fly. But this does, you talk about the storylines, Max, doesn't this like kind of smell like the game where Tom Brady upsets Drew Brees, kind of puts him in the retirement home for good, and kind of says, like, there's 2 GOATs on this field, but there's 1 GOAT. Like, there's 2, like,
yeah, this weekend
first ballot Hall of Famers.
Sure.
There's 2 Hall of Famers on this field, but there's 1 GOAT on this field. And I got to remind everyone who the GOAT is on this field really quick. Of course, I'm not going to go against my team, but there are legitimate reasons why I do think the Buccaneers are going to win. You guys kind of hit on them, both. Both of these teams have a bevy of weapons. Both of these teams absolutely do on the offensive end. And it's just so hard to cover all of them. And if the Buccaneers are hitting on all cylinders, once we are hitting on all cylinders, we're one of the most dangerous offenses in the NFL. But what I think we're going to be able to do that the Saints aren't is I think we're going to be able to find that balance between the run and pass. Like, I think we're going to find some success, with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. You talk about someone who's coming onto the scene as Antonio Brown is. Leonard Fournette the past 3 games has been astounding. And he had the best game of his Buccaneers career last week in the playoffs, this past weekend. And I think that continues.
That was huge, too. Ronald Jones was scratched, like 10 minutes before?
10 minutes before the game. And Leonard Fournette picked it up like it was nothing. Leonard Fournette came in and had an absolutely one hell of a game. And I think that continues. And that's the great equalizer. If our offense becomes balanced, not just pass heavy, if Tom doesn't have to throw 50 to 55 times, if we can keep that the 35 to 40 range, and Leonard Fournette has a healthy 15 to 20 attempts and they're productive and you have a score there, that's where I think that's the scale gets tipped into the Buccaneers' favor. So, you know what I'm gonna say, man? Fire them damn cannons all over the field, bro. We going to an NFC Championship game, yes, sir.
So this one, I forget who said it, but I'm pretty sure Drew Brees is already getting paid from that broadcast deal he signed. Like, that dude is he's ready. He's ready, man. And I'll get, you know what? If you're feeling saucy, I'm going to go out and call it right now. I'm going to go Bucks outright, and I think it's a Scotty Miller game.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a great call. That's a great call, Banners.
I think it's the Scott. Like, we're looking back at this man, Scotty Miller, he might not go for like $150, but I can see this being like a Scotty Miller, like 82-yard game,
do
but
we
like
know
3
if this is
touchdowns.
if
Like
this
it's
is
going to be a
night game?
saucy game.
Do we know if
I
this
think
is
it's the night game.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Yeah, this is definitely Scotty Miller. Yeah, definitely.
This
Well,
is,
here's
yeah,
where
this
Scotty
is like
Miller
a,
comes
like a
into
He only,
play.
70.
only had 2 snaps last week. They're saving him. They're hiding him in the back pocket.
Scotty
this
Miller.
is gonna, I can feel it. I can feel it's going to
Yeah.
be like 67 to like high 70 yards.
on
but
3
like 2 to
catches.
3
On 3
touchdowns.
catches, and one of them's going to be like a 50-yard bomb. Yeah.
Yep.
It's
exactly
it's
how
going
it
to be
goes.
crazy. So I'm calling it right now. Bucks outright Scotty Miller game.
We
Book
really
it.
clean sweep.
Oh,
No one
that
wants to
can't be
change to the
good.
Saints. Like no one wants to pick the Saints because that doesn't make me feel good at all.
I mean, like
I can never do
they're-
I
I
thank
think
you for
by
the
the time
confidence. Thank you for
this
the
game rolls
confidence,
around, I
but-
won't be surprised if the Bucks are favored. I just
Good call.
The-
Well, the Saints only get
so
those 3 because they're at home, so it technically
Yeah.
is an even line.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
even-
they
neutral
they're
field,
the
even-
Saints
yeah.
are a completely different team in the Superdome. So I mean they are a great team at home. I just
Yeah, but come on, man. Drew Brees in the playoffs the last 2 years. Say it with me.
no, that's
Shaky
shaky
baby.
baby.
Shaky baby.
That's why,
And
man. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand how the Saints can crumble in the
sir.
playoffs. That's why I'm going Bucks outright. It's just I agree with Max. I don't think the Bucks will be favored just because obviously they're the home team, but it's just I don't
And my
see it.
defense is good for 1 to 2 takeaways a game. We're
I
good
think-
for
I
it.
really think the main reason is that the one thing that I said about both defenses, but I said this about both defenses. Both are prone to giving up big plays, but the issue is the Saints don't generate any big plays.
Right.
All their big plays have been short plays that turn into big plays. They have
Yeah.
not been pushing the ball down the field in terms of air yards. They just haven't. So I really think that's the biggest difference because week 1 Tampa Bay, you were not prepared for half of Drew Brees' ribs to be shattered and his arm to be Peyton Manning in his last year.
Yeah.
You just didn't plan or prepare for that. You gave him the respect he deserved as an all-time great quarterback. And quite honestly, I think Bruce Arians is kind of I think you would agree with me. He's kind of a guy with an ego. I think that he'll know that, like, what the hell am I doing? This guy can't, like, I literally think Bruce Arians is the kind of guy that'll say, what the hell am I doing? This guy can't play anymore. Like, he's the kind of guy to like think that, but not in a disrespectful way.
No, he's the guy to think that and to go tell Todd Bowles pressure that the Heat
Exactly. That's
needs to
what I
be
mean.
turned
Like,
up all
like,
game.
Bruce
Put him
Arians
on
is
his
not
back,
going to
yeah.
let Bruce Arians is not going to let Drew Brees game manager him out of the playoffs. He's
Yeah,
not.
no.
Yep. Well, we're going to move into tap out. Gentlemen, who's got a good tap out for us this week?
I had one and I forget it.
I have a
thinking
good
about it
one.
earlier.
I have a good one. And
Go
mine
for it.
kind of stays on the theme of what we were talking about. We touched on it earlier with the NBA falling into NFL territory, with how they're dealing with COVID. But we talked about, at the end of the NBA season, all 4 of us gave such a praise and a standing ovation to Adam Silver for having one of the best GM seasons maybe in sports history, for how he dealt with not only COVID in the bubble, but allowing his players to take on social injustice head on and not silencing any of them and do exactly what they wanted to do. And he's still doing that from that standpoint. So I'm not going to talk about, his performance or the NBA's performance from that standpoint. But after they had their championship season in the bubble, the NBA went right back to everyone else and to treating COVID and just adopting COVID into their life as if it's not a disease and a pandemic that's out here killing people. And this resumed stuff into normal. And now they're feeling the residual effects that the MLB and the NFL and every other major sports league that kind of just continued as of normal and into the storm that is COVID. And they're seeing the drawbacks from it. And, it's kind of head scratching if you're the NBA if you've seen how well it can go if you take the proper precautions, if you actually treat it as it is a disease and mend your season so that you can have a full season, mend your protocols so that you can have a full season. I'm very perplexed by how the NBA, after what they just did, goes back to normalcy and is now surprised when they have to start canceling games and when full rosters get COVID and when it's derailing the season. The NBA you should not be surprised. This should not be a shock to you, and you really have nowhere to blame but yourself. And I'm really disappointed with the NBA because they were the one league that we could point to and say they did it correct. They did it 100% exactly correct. And now they just soiled themselves. So the NBA is in jeopardy of, like Max said earlier, of having the 7 to 10 day hiatus where they got to tell everyone to go bunker up and to go quarantine and, may not have to finish the rest of this week. And who knows what happens after that. But, the NBA kind of shot themselves in the foot here. And I think it was very unnecessary. I didn't think they had to do it.
All right. So before anybody else goes, JJ, you touched on a disease, the idea of a disease. And unfortunately, this past week has showed us how really diseased this country is. And I saw a video of there's that whole rush of videos online of the Trump supporters trying to fly home from DC. And I saw a video of a man being arrested in an airport with police officers on top of him. And he had not only just the unmitigated gall, and even that phrase doesn't even do it justice. He yelled for anybody who was in earshot, "You're treating me like a black man."
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if I'm quite eloquent enough with words to put together how absolutely messed up that is, and how there are still people that, one, think that way, two, support that kind of thinking, and three, push that upon others. But we haven't seen this type of event since the War of 1812, when the Capitol building was set on fire. We spend how many trillions of dollars a year on national security, and yet our Capitol building had its windows busted like my 2005 F-150. I'm not quite sure if there's a fix other than termination. And I don't mean termination in terms of death. It can be as simple as imprisonment. But this needs to be dealt with. This was an act of insurrection. This was an attempted coup, and everything that stands behind it and anybody who supports it. One, please don't watch this show. Two, if you know me, don't. And three,
take a hard look at yourself.
And three, you're not the only ones that can fight for what you believe in. So
talk to him.
Yeah, I think that's all I need to say. Who's next?
Very well said. Very well said.
Especially compared to that.
No, I mean, Banners, I'm the same. All week, there was no doubt in my mind what my tap out was. It was just, there was nothing that, Super Wild Card Weekend was just a great distraction, and it really was nothing more than that. I had a great weekend, but that event at Capitol Hill I think was the craziest thing that I've ever seen. I can't remember 9/11, so this was literally the craziest thing that I might have ever seen. And I think worst of all, it wasn't the most shocking thing either. It was something that seemed like it was coming for a while, and it was just terrible. And for me, it showed how clearly there was a right side of history and there was a wrong side of history, and it's just so obvious which side is which. Banners, you said it, man. I don't know what the solution is, but it's just never been more obvious how screwed up things are. And I'm just hopeful that this is a measuring stick, a benchmark, and in the time where people punched a few people in the face, I'm hoping, and showed them the extent of how troubled this country is. So that's my tap out, and let's hope things at least get better a little bit.
And the only thing I have to add to that, which, Banners, I was just so you said you're not eloquent enough with your words. That was beautifully put, by the way. But when you look at, there were some people who were in support, some very, questionable people who were in support of what happened at the Capitol building, and they were citing the riots and the looting that were happening over the summer. And I have to point out the glaring differences in the two. One, a Target getting broken into and the Capitol building getting broken into are two completely different things. No one who was in support of Black Lives Matter broke into any government building and went and put their feet on somebody's desk and were stealing podiums and taking nothing of that sort was ever happening. And the reason why people were rioting and looting in the summer is because to protest the unwrongful death of unarmed black people. That's what they were protesting. The people who stormed the Capitol building were quote unquote protesting a fair and just Senate race. That's all they were protesting. They were upset because they lost the Senate in one state. That's it. So, I have to point out just the startling differences in those two, because there's no justification for what happened. Absolutely none. And America as a whole just has to take a long look in the mirror, because Dr. Martin Luther King said it a long time ago, there are two different Americas. And if you haven't realized that yet, you need to reevaluate some things.
I got one thing to let us leave on. Perhaps the most unified I've seen a large number of people in the last 4 years is when a certain Twitter account was permanently banned from its platform, and then basically every other medium in North American geography followed suit thereafter. And that is hasn't been the most unifying thing ever, but it certainly did bring maybe a feeling of maybe we can start fresh from somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for us on Trust the Process Live. Again, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Spotify, whether that be Anchor, whether that be Apple Podcasts, or you know what? Honestly, if you found a new podcast platform, bring it to us. We'll put ourselves there. You know,
we're already there. We don't even know it. We're there.
Exactly. But that Miami Philly, where something is always new and everything's always
Philly. Fire them cannons, baby.